No one tells you that the most expensive thing at a wedding isn't the venue, the dress, or even the guest list. It's the moment you realize someone you love planned to destroy you. What would you do if the person standing closest to you on your biggest day was quietly waiting for you to fall apart? What if the drink raised in a toast was never meant to celebrate you, but to humiliate you? And what if the proof of betrayal wasn't discovered months later, but right there, under crystal chandeliers, with hundreds of eyes watching? Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's patient. And sometimes it's served in a champagne flute. My name is Hale. I was 29 years old when I got married, and on that night, my $8,000 wedding cake was destroyed. It was the best money I ever spent. At the time, I was working as a senior brand strategist at a high-profile marketing firm in Savannah. My life ran on logic, planning, and risk assessment. I built campaigns designed to predict human behavior. I believed I could read people. I was wrong about one person. My younger sister, Hale, was 27 and called herself a lifestyle creator. Online, she had curated perfection, filtered smiles, sponsored outfits, motivational captions stolen from quote pages. What she never posted was the truth, tens of thousands in hidden credit card debt and a constant need for validation. Our parents had always protected her. Excused her. Softened the world for her at my expense. No matter what I achieved, it was never enough. No matter what she did, it was never her fault. That imbalance had followed us our entire lives. But it reached its breaking point when I got engaged. My fiancé, Andrew Whitmore, was a surgical resident, brilliant, calm under pressure, and quietly kind. But what fascinated my sister wasn't his career or character. It was his last name. The Whitmores were legacy wealthy. Old foundations. Historic donors. The kind of family whose names appeared on buildings, not Instagram captions. And the moment Brianna realized she would be standing inches away from that world, something in her shifted. Wedding planning became a battlefield. 3 months before the ceremony, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, designer bag, luxury athleisure, confidence she hadn't earned. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't congratulate me. She demanded. She wanted to be maid of honor. When I refused, calmly, reasonably, she cried to our parents. Within hours, they arrived, disappointment already rehearsed. They spoke about unity. Family image. How it would look if my own sister wasn't front and center. I caved. That decision cost me more than money. From that moment on, every detail became a negotiation. The dress she chose cost nearly $2,000. She dismissed cheaper options as embarrassing. I paid without protest. Looking back, every demand was a rehearsal. Every manipulation, a warning. Every concession, an invitation. I didn't know it then, but my sister wasn't trying to be part of my wedding. She was preparing to ruin it. And the plan had already begun. The subtle shift in Sutton's posture was enough to send a thrill through me. Her hand twitched toward her hair, then froze midair. Her forced smile wavered as the first trace of drowsiness crept in. Across the room, I could see guests chatting, laughing, completely unaware of the silent battle unfolding at the head table. Every eye was elsewhere, but mine was locked on her. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain the calm poise I'd spent decades mastering. This was more than just a wedding, it was the culmination of years of being overlooked, overshadowed, manipulated. And now, justice had a quiet, almost poetic stage. The MC's voice rang out again, introducing a video montage of Sterling's childhood moments, school graduations, and family trips. The lights dimmed slightly, casting a warm glow over the room. Sutton's gaze followed the screen, briefly diverting from me, and that was all the opening I needed. My fingers shifted imperceptibly, ensuring the glasses remained exactly where they needed to be. Precision mattered. Timing mattered. Every heartbeat counted. I could feel the subtle warmth in my chest as adrenaline coursed alongside the satisfaction of knowing her plan was failing. Sutton, for all her scheming, had underestimated me. She hadn't anticipated years of strategic thinking, years of learning to observe and analyze people without being noticed. And now, her own hubris was her undoing. By the time the montage ended, Sutton's eyelids were fluttering. She blinked once, twice, a little slower each time. Her laughter, which had been light and playful, became slightly delayed. Her words sounded off, almost sluggish. I had to restrain a smile. The irony was exquisite. The poison she intended for me was now rewinding its course. Sterling leaned closer, whispering a joke about the ridiculous hats his great-aunt wore during the montage. I nodded, murmuring an absent-minded chuckle, playing my part to perfection. Sutton's attention snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. She suspected nothing. She never did. That was her flaw, arrogance wrapped in entitlement. As the cake-cutting ceremony approached, the anticipation in the room increased. Guests murmured excitedly, cameras clicked, and the scent of freshly baked red velvet mingled with the floral arrangements. The six-tier masterpiece gleamed under the soft chandelier light, each gold leaf reflection catching the eyes of those nearby. Yet all I could focus on was Sutton, who was now subtly slumping in her seat, a small but undeniable victory forming in my chest. The photographer leaned forward to capture Sterling lifting the cake knife, ready for the ceremonial slice. I signaled subtly to David, who was aware of the situation thanks to Adeline. He gave a tiny nod, his expression unreadable, poised like a guardian in the wings. The perfect setup was complete. Sutton attempted to lift her champagne glass once more, her movements slightly delayed, unsteady. The effervescence in the liquid shimmered under the candlelight, masking the truth entirely. She thought she had won, that she had orchestrated my humiliation flawlessly. But her confidence now served as the final piece of the trap I had laid for her. It was exquisite, calculated, precise, and untraceable. Her eyes met mine briefly, the tiniest flicker of doubt passing over her features. Then it vanished. She lifted the glass to toast again, her voice sweet, high-pitched, carrying across the table, "To your happiness, Brooke." Her words, meant to cement her triumph, fell flat against the reality of what was about to unfold. As the crystal glasses chimed, I watched the liquid disappear into her system, each sip bringing her closer to the deep sleep I had engineered. The crowd applauded, oblivious to the invisible tension threading the air. It was a flawless execution, the ultimate reversal of power. And I sat there, calm, elegant, observing the consequences of years of manipulation culminating in this one perfect moment. Sutton's head tipped slightly, eyelids drooping, her posture slumping ever so subtly. I could almost hear the tiny, internal scream of her ego realizing, too late, that she had become the architect of her own downfall. The MC's voice continued in the background, introducing the next dance. Guests began shifting, unaware that history was being written quietly at the head table. All eyes were still elsewhere, but I knew exactly what was happening. The first real act of payback was complete, and the night was far from over. By the time the first dance began, Sutton was a shadow of the confident, scheming sister I had known all my life. Her movements were slow, almost sluggish, the carefully crafted mask of poise melting with each passing second. The crowd swirled around us, laughing, clinking glasses, celebrating love, and yet the tension at the head table was almost tangible, invisible to anyone not paying attention. Sterling guided me to the dance floor, his hand warm and reassuring. Cameras flashed, capturing the moments we had meticulously planned, yet all I could see was Sutton, still seated, slowly sinking into her own defeat. My heart raced, not from fear, but from a deep, satisfying triumph. Years of being overlooked, of having my achievements minimized, had led to this night. And it was perfect. I caught Adeline's eye across the room. She gave the slightest nod, a signal I had no words for. "It's working." Her gaze swept over Sutton like a hawk surveying prey. I didn't need to say anything, the plan was in motion, precise and irreversible. Guests cheered as Sterling spun me around, laughter and applause filling the room. Sutton tried to clap along, tried to smile, but her head tipped slightly, her eyelids heavy. The first hints of confusion flickered across her features. She blinked, once, twice, then froze mid-motion. I allowed myself a subtle smile. The irony wasn't lost on me. The sister who had schemed to destroy my day, who had spent months manipulating our parents, calculating every step, was now powerless in the most public arena of all, the wedding itself. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. Sutton attempted to rise, to act as if nothing were wrong, to join the festivities with her usual flair. But her legs betrayed her, wobbling beneath her weight. A sharp intake of breath, a quiet gasp, and she collapsed, gracefully at first, almost like a fainting lady in an old romance novel, before the full reality of her state settled. Gasps rippled across the VIP tables. Heads turned. Murmurs spread. And yet, amidst the shock, Sterling's family remained composed, polite, waiting for context. I leaned slightly toward him, whispering in a tone only he could hear, "She tried to ruin this, but it's handled." His eyes widened slightly, understanding the unspoken layers of what had just transpired. Adeline was already moving, subtly guiding hotel staff to ensure Sutton's dignity remained intact. But I stayed seated, hands folded, calm, almost regal. Every detail had been anticipated. Every risk mitigated. Sutton's collapse was the climax of her own making. Guests speculated quietly. Perhaps fatigue, perhaps a minor mishap. No one suspected the years of tension, the manipulations, or the carefully reversed champagne trick. And that was exactly how it should be. Sterling squeezed my hand again, whispering with a mixture of awe and amusement, "You're incredible." I let the words wash over me, my smile gentle but sharp beneath the surface. Incredible wasn't just a compliment, it was acknowledgement of a truth long denied, a justice long delayed. As Sutton was escorted discreetly to a nearby lounge to recover, I took a moment to breathe. The music resumed, guests swirled, conversations hummed. From the outside, the wedding continued flawlessly, elegantly, without a hitch. But beneath the surface, the evening had shifted irrevocably. Power dynamics had changed. The sister who had plotted against me was no longer in control. And I realized something profound in that moment. The most expensive wedding cake I had ever purchased wasn't just a luxury, it had become the stage for redemption, for retribution, and for finally claiming the space I had been denied my entire life. I smiled again, inwardly and outwardly, savoring the irony. Sutton had underestimated me at every turn. And now, in front of our family, friends, and the world, her plan had utterly, spectacularly failed. Yet the night was far from over. This was only the beginning of Sutton's reckoning. And as the orchestra swelled, the dance continued, and the golden bubbles in our glasses sparkled under the chandelier, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: the story of my wedding, and my victory, would linger far longer than any fleeting Instagram post or social media scandal. Sutton remained in the lounge, her head resting against the velvet couch, the warmth of the melatonin spreading through her body. She was awake enough to be aware, yet powerless to act. Her mind, racing with disbelief, couldn't reconcile the betrayal. Her own plan had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Back at the ballroom, I raised my glass once more. Sterling leaned closer, whispering, "You really outdid yourself." I smiled, calm and composed, but beneath that exterior, exhilaration surged through me. This was justice served in silence, served in crystal, served perfectly. The evening continued seamlessly. Guests danced, laughed, and toasted, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded. Every photograph captured the elegance, the joy, the picture-perfect facade of the event. And yet, I knew the invisible story, the story Sutton had written for me, had been rewritten entirely. Later, when Sutton was finally escorted back, her confidence shattered, her eyes wide with shame, I offered her a small, controlled smile. "Are you okay?" I asked softly, the words carrying no malice, only the weight of consequence. She looked at me, speechless. No excuses, no whines, no manipulations. For the first time in her life, she faced me without the shield of charm or entitlement. She had expected me to stumble, to fail, to make a fool of myself. Instead, she had fallen. Mother and father arrived moments later, whispering apologies, feigning concern, but I saw through the veneer. Years of favoritism, manipulation, and guilt-tripping had been laid bare. They had pushed me to accommodate Sutton, to placate her ego, and yet here she was, undone by her own hand. Sterling wrapped his arm around me, pride radiating from his every gesture. "You handled that perfectly," he murmured. "Absolutely flawless." I nodded, letting the warmth of victory sink in. It wasn't about humiliation, it was about reclamation. I had spent 29 years accommodating, adjusting, swallowing pride, and mediating my sister's insecurities. But in that moment, I was fully, unapologetically myself. Strong, poised, victorious. Later that night, as the last guests departed and the ballroom emptied, I stood before the remnants of the wedding cake, a toppled tower of red velvet and ivory fondant. In the crumbs, I saw Sutton's face, flushed and defeated. It was a final tableau, a visual representation of the balance restored. I thought about all the years I had been overlooked, underestimated, and undervalued. All those moments of silent frustration, of bending to the whims of others, of swallowing my own ambitions, they had led to this night. And in that quiet, victorious moment, I realized the truth: sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't loud. It's precise. It's patient. And it's savored quietly, while everyone else believes the world remains unchanged. Sutton would recover eventually. Her Instagram would post curated smiles, her followers would cheer, oblivious to the real story behind the night. But I would remember. Sterling would remember. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to apologize for who I was, or for finally standing my ground. The night ended with the last sparkler extinguished, the ballroom lights dimmed, and a sense of quiet triumph settling over me. My wedding had been flawless, not because of the decorations, the food, or even the perfect photographs, but because I had finally written my own ending. And as I held Sterling's hand, looking out over the city lights of Charleston, I knew one immutable fact: nothing, not manipulation, not jealousy, not even the most meticulously plotted schemes, could ever take away my power again. The wedding had been mine, completely, and in the chaos of spilled red velvet, broken expectations, and silent justice, I had never